And what is up, guys? Technicals Tinkers here, checking in on our 3D print operation for today. Almost at 2,000 subs, gonna be doing another giveaway there soon, so be sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned on that. So what am I working on today? The majority of my focus over the past few episodes has been the Orangestorm Giga, which we're gonna get into that. But over here on everything else, character model still chooching along, and it just finished up the center section of our Colt Python. Actually, I'm gonna leave it on there until it cools down because I don't want any issues ripping that thing off the plate. That's the final section that we need. So hopefully later today, we'll be able to fit the cylinder on the inside and the front and the dowels and all that kind of stuff to make sure it all lines up, because the overall goal with the Python, the goal is to be able to ship it in two parts because the model is so large. If I shipped it in one piece, it would be an oversized shipping charge. It's like 200 bucks. And it's like, I don't really want to do that because I'm not going to be able to like sell any if I have to charge that much money for it. So my aim is to split it up, and the customer is going to have to piece it together just in two parts, but I'm going to make it as simple as possible. So that's the sort of what we've been working on here. Character model is kind of its own thing, but the real story is the Giga. So I'm going to kick it back to my past self, starting at about an hour and a half ago, to where I start going through and doing this nightmare leveling process that everyone's so scared of. All right, so I just uploaded today's vlog, and I've only got a few hours before I have to go and actually do real work, Charlie work. So I'm gonna try and take a stab at leveling the Giga out. Let's take a look here. All right, so if I go to view data, confirm, it should show us the different, the bed offsets. So we tried doing a D20 on it last night. It's a little high, and versus going through and just dialing down the Z offset, you know, maybe I could just dial down the Z offset. Maybe that's enough. Again, because I don't know what the disparity should be. I'm gonna take a look at this anyway for posterity. All right, so looking at it over here, you can see, let's get a little better representation here. So from the middle out, it seems like it, you know, adjusts its center here. Like, you know, a negative 0.02 here, but somehow this one is a 0.21. This is like a full quarter millimeter off. Is it that bad? So obviously some adjustment there. You know, if you get up here, like it's, you know, you got it into the negatives and then the positives. The swings are kind of all over the place. So I'm going through the automatic leveling. I love how this is a little tablet that you can take down and move around. So I'm going through and adjusting the plate, and in the few videos that I've seen, this seems to be like the part that everyone says is really hairy. I've gone through and done that across all the plates, and I adjusted it, but I'm going back through and doing it one more time because I feel like, I think on the first, maybe I had a little overlap on one of the plates, and that's what caused it to kind of be offset. So I'm just going through and doing it again. It takes a while for it to measure, but the adjustment seems pretty straightforward. You know, I'm not through this process yet, so there may yet to be another nightmare along the way, but overall it seems pretty straightforward. So we're gonna see how it comes out. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna go back through the 100-point leveling and see what I get. All right, and so I'm on my third go around, and again, like, this is not like, you know, everyone's gonna have to do this. A lot of this is user error, and I chalk it up to just inexperience. Like, you know, I've never had to go through this process before, but what I've been doing is, you know, going through and adjusting these points down, and I think I probably wouldn't need to do it. I might even do it a fourth time just to be sure, but the first time around, I noticed when I put the leveling plates on, I think is where I kind of screwed up, because I put them on, I didn't notice this bracket here, the plate, because it's magnetic, was kind of resting on it a little bit, and so that was giving me a reading that was much higher, and I adjusted based on that. So that second go around was me kind of undoing that, and this time around is me kind of really dialing it in. So, you know, I don't think that most people who have any idea what they're doing, unlike me, would have this issue, especially if you're watching this. Just know that when you go through and do it, make sure that your plate is precise on the individual bed, that it's not overlapping on the edge or overlapping the other plate too, because I was kind of like fiddling with it, and then I noticed I was overlapping just the slightest little bit on the other plate. And so I've done a really good job centering these up as I measure, and I'm honing it in. And I think the first time too, the first few I did, every one revolution is 0.7 millimeters. And for some reason in my head, because these measurements are so finite, or so small, minute, I was adjusting based on it being 0.07 millimeters. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I got to turn this like 5 times. No. I had to turn it like a quarter turn instead. So there was a lot of undoing that in the second go around. And so I think I'm getting a lot closer on this one. Once I go through and adjust this, I'm going to go through and do it one more time just to make sure. And personally, my range, I'm just establishing my own range variability. If I can get everything within, say, 0.2 or lower, maybe 0.15 or lower across the entire bed, I think I'm fine there. But in the future, if it turns out to be a problem, then I can adjust based on that. All right, so we got all meshed up, everything in place, and we were confident. We did a bed leveling print. We did Uncle Jesse's bed leveling. It's just a big loop spiral kind of thing. And it looked okay, so I went ahead with this D20. Now, it's obvious to me that the Z is still a little high. Very clearly, the Z is a little high, but it's a little late in the game for me to go in and try to adjust it, and it looks to me like most of it's kind of down. So I'm gonna watch for the that first layer, that solid infill layer there. If there's any kind of drag or anything there, then I'll stop. But if that goes down, you know, I don't have to, I could probably be here by the time the second layer is in. And if that goes down, then I think we'll probably be okay. All right, and so here with the Giga, it's midday. It's about the time I do the midday update. And so the failed D20 from this morning, I went back through and did another round of the bed meshing, just the auto leveling, and also did the input shaping, the vibration compensation, because I thought maybe that had something to do with it, but really it was the Z offset. So tuned down the Z offset even further, and right now I'm printing like a Z offset test. So it's just a little square, and then it's big enough to where I should be able to see it and adjust it down to get the right height, hopefully. And then after that, I'll try it again. My aim is to get it started and get up to the first, like, 2, 3, 4 layers before I like turn in. And then at that point, hopefully, it, goes the course. The only really bad part is, well, not bad part, but this thing is set to take right at 4,000 grams. So that's 4 spools of filament. I don't have 4 spools of white. I guess I could order a couple spools. I think I can get them same day or next morning, because it won't make it until then. I don't know. I'd have to look at the total time on the print, because I think it might be under a day, or maybe just a little over a day to print that giant D20. So I'm hopeful for it. I'm looking to get a big print. I'm not looking to print a bunch of small things and be like, oh, look, it works. I want something big. So I can have that going and then focus on the rest of the stuff, because this thing's eating up a lot of my time. We'll see how that works out through the rest of the day. As far as the other stuff goes, I did get the center section of the, actually, you know what? Let's just go and take a look at it. All right, and so over here, I got the middle section. Just came off the printer this morning, and I gotta say that the supports, whatever those settings were, I don't even remember, are absolutely beautiful. You can barely tell there were any supports on here. I've never had such a clean pull-off supports. Back here, not so much, but it's like ridged. But the rest of it came off crispy clean. Again, whatever supports I had. I hope I saved that file. Put in the dowels over here. Fits in just fine, but the cylinder is, again, too large. So I'm reprinting the cylinder now. About to do some dowels for this section, but this is coming together nicely. How'd we do? Oh, beautiful. Will it pass the test? Will the lines separate? Oh gosh. Oh my God, look at that. Is that a beautiful flapjack or what? Yummy. I mean, obviously, if you get up close, but look at that. Perfect. perfect. This is a new D20 model. Special shout out to the guy that sent it over to me. He was like, hey, I do design. Here's a D20. Try printing this one. You can use it for whatever. And I'm like, thank you, because I'm dumb and I need all the help I can get. So special shout out. If you want to send me free designs to print that I can profit from, by all means, send them my way. So I'm going to try it out. I don't like how it does generate some support just around the base. I don't know any way around that. I'm not going heavy-handed on the support. But the Z offset seems to be dialed in, so let's give her a rip. So I nudged down the Z offset by about, maybe by about like 0.08 millimeters. And so this was how it was. And then once I nudged it down, focus. Oh, here we go. So that seems pretty good. Hopefully a good foundation for success. Got that going, and I mentioned that Rhino head yesterday, the one that I want to, like, I think would be good, a good, like, I guess second print, hopefully second print. On the Giga, I figured, let's print a smaller version. It's still basically as big as I can get it on the Cobra 2 Max, but it's only set to take about a day. I still don't know how long this D20 is set to take, but we're gonna check on that in the morning, and this is the point in the video normally where I kick it over to my future self once I'm completely and utterly turned and geeked out on coffee to see how it all worked out. And it is 100% the next morning. I wouldn't say we're actually geeked out or spun out on caffeine, but we're getting there. So let's check in and see what's going on here. Worker model is in the home stretch. She's looking good. Everything looking great. Face is coming out good. So very optimistic on that. And we got a sale. So we did sell a couple 2-packs of the shrouds. I only had one in back stock, so I'm doing one here on the A1, and up here on the Sobol, we're doing 2 of them because the Sobol can spit out 2 to the A1's 1 with really equivalent settings. So haven't had to use the Sobol in a while. Needed some love, needed to wake up, needed to stay in top fighting conditions, so we're running one there, or 2 over there, 1 over here, and our rhinoceros print over here on Cobra number 2. Now this is just kind of a get the general idea sort of thing. It's only 1 spool's worth of filament, so not too ultra concerned about it. It's all jacked up kind of, and this is really because I just thought for like before I get into a new print, these giant prints, I think I want to do this first, print like a, not small, but medium-ish sized one, as big as I can on a Cobra before I go and put one on the Giga, just to kind of see what's going to be the major issues here and there for these types of things. Now my aim is to print this as big as I possibly can in parts on the Giga, and so it's going to be broken up, and so it's going to be life size ideally. So just watching this go through, did normal supports on it, not build plate only. You can see the top surface is jacked up, but that's me trying to save some filament. Again, this is just getting a general idea. And you might, I imagine some people be like, well, that's a waste of filament. Filament's cheap. It's like $11 per roll. And if I'm going to be investing potentially for this Rhino print, well over $100 worth of filament, over 10 spools, 10, 15, maybe even 20 spools of filament to make one life-size Rhino head. You know, let's just say on the absolute top end, it's $200 for the filament to make this Rhino head and $200 to ship it. You know, I'm probably going to be aiming to sell the thing for $1,500, $1,700. It's a life-size rhinoceros head. So there's a class of customer that I'm going after for that kind of thing. Whether or not they're going to, pay it, I don't know. But if I'm going to be going into that, then and burning all that up, it makes sense to at least try it first to kind of see, like, in a smaller version, what areas may potentially have some issue. Maybe what you really want to see is, did it come out? The enormous D20 cube. Well, I have a special surprise for you. That's right, we got the D20. It's so big, I can't even get myself in the camera. It's so big. Actually, it's not. We did have a failure when we were trying to print the D20. Same thing with the Z offset, and I think it was something to do with the slice. So when I went back through, I was like, you know what, instead of just kind of wasting more time, I'm gonna go ahead and slice off like a 1/4 millimeter off the bottom plane that I'm printing on, because when I was watching it, it was the one key area, the first overhang. So the second layer, the first overhang was not adhering to the plate, and I don't think it was a matter of the Z offset being too high. I think it was a matter of it adhering to the first layer. And so I thought, well, maybe there's just too much of an initial overhang. So I sliced off a 1/4 millimeter. And at the same time, I thought, let's just go ahead and, you know, slice off a little bit and print a smaller version, kind of like what I'm doing with the Rhino, versus just yeeting it and going for it. So did that. Kind of a good thing to test out this model because I never printed this particular model before. So right off the rip, I can kind of see that, like, I mean, because this is a 0.48 layer height, and on this model, the numbers are much more gently sort of recessed in. They're not as sharp as the model I've been printing, and my thinking was that it's going to make a big difference when it comes to like failure and not having to use as many supports. I do see some areas here where it's almost a little layer shifty. Not too sure if that's just like, you know, by nature of the like thicker layer height or what. It seems to have occurred up here closer to the middle section. So my thinking is with this, because I did this with, I think it's a 0.25% infill. And a lot of people are saying you don't need infill, you know, but like with a model this ginormous, my worry is that when it gets to the top layer, it's not going to have enough for that top layer to bridge on top of. Now, it does do these long bridge. I was looking in the slicer, these long bridging extrusions, and it starts building from there. But I don't want to have like a million zillion top layers in order to like make sure that the top layer looks good. I want something like at least one, you know, like crosshatch in there. And if I dialed it down to like 0.25, that gives me a little more rigidity. I mean, this thing's solid. I mean, it's based on the size and, you know, even 2 wall loops, it's super duper solid. So overall, not too bad. Leaves a little to be desired, like, you know, some of the adhesion on the supports. And I think, you know, as I was talking about in a previous video, the relationship between your top Z distance and your layer height seems to be the case. So maybe I need to dial that up from the default, which I think is just still 0.2. If I'm running a 0.48, with the top Z distance between supports and the interface of a 0.2, that's half. So maybe I need to dial that up. But overall, I mean, it seems acceptable. There's no like major layer shift issues, maybe just layer adhesion. And so that just dial up the flow. I guess, you know, that's what you do, or turn down the speed, because I think it turned it up a little bit. But looking pretty good there. So today, the name of the game there is most definitely to get a large print going, or at least to get a good foundation on one. Maybe I'll even try a different model. Maybe I'll just try something that's a little simpler, like a vase or a chair, just to make sure that the printer's like capable of hacking it before I get into this, which has been notoriously a difficult model to print. And over here on the Colt Python, just to be checking in, we did get the revised cylinder out, which is the correct size, but would you believe it? I mean, it's probably pretty easy to believe after, if you've been watching my channel, like, you know, how I'll get to the 99% end of something, only to realize that there's some fundamental problem with things all along the way, because we've been working on this in a method to be able to ship it in 2 parts. And so that's why we have this front section here with the dowels we put in and the middle section here. And I sort of retooled everything to have this center to where the cylinder can slide on and rotate, because I think that would be pretty cool for the customer. But if you saw last episode, you saw that, like, well, the cylinder I printed, for some reason I had scaled up to a weird scale. So I went back through and scaled this to the correct size, which it is, but I neglected to scale the cutout. So while it does fit, well, maybe, it doesn't, it's just a little too tight, and the cylinder doesn't spin as freely. So that's not the major issue, is because when I was holding this in my hand, I was like, you know, this just kind of seems small. It just doesn't seem like the right size. And so then I started looking at the actual model up there, and this is just scaled way too small. Let me climb up here. I mean, it looks like off the rip, you know, it's kind of hard to tell because the scaling isn't hugely off. Maybe I need to, let's get something that's a little easier to identify. All right, so here's the cylinder. The cylinder, you can see this is like 20 millimeters, probably 30 millimeters or so. it just needs to scale up by about another like 10%. Again, I don't know where in the process I went wrong along the way. It's probably moving back and forth between different types of models and different types of cuts and slices that it just ended up being a little bit too small. We don't want a small gun, so we're gonna go through and probably, since we have all the parts for this model, what we'll probably do is just go ahead and complete it, because we're only putting 1-for-1s on Etsy. Just very easy to paint it up, put it on the Etsy, and establish the price based on how large it is. And so that's the nature of the 3D print update for today. Appreciate everybody who's been following along in the Orangestorm Giga process, trying to get other things going along the way so where the videos just aren't all about the Orangestorm Giga. But certainly I want to start seeing some prints coming out of the Giga, things that, you know, could potentially be sold, giant art prints, or, you know, even functional prints if, you know, something like that comes along. So give me your ideas in the comments below. Let me know what you're working on in the comments below. All your tips, feedback, and suggestions are greatly appreciated. Be sure to like the video because it's a nice thing to do, and subscribe for more content like this. I'm the Technicals. See you next time.